Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Our guest today is Crista Grasso, and we're going to talk about scaling your business. Welcome to the show, Crista.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
We all want to grow our business, right? Well, maybe I shouldn't be so general because somewhere out there are people who are perfectly happy with their sort of like little hobby type business, but they're probably not the ones listening to this show. So when we talk about growing a business and making more money and scaling it, it can be an exciting topic, but it also can be a very overwhelming topic. And you address that very thing with your clients. So let's start by talking a little bit about what it is that you do in your business so our listeners have a frame of reference for who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of a company called the Lean Out Method, and leaning out is all about getting crystal clear on those things that are most valuable for your clients, drive the most profit for your business, and are the most personally fulfilling for you, and then getting rid of everything else. And I think that's really critical when you do want to grow your business or when you're ready to scale your business, because what I've seen after working with companies for a little more than 20 years now is that most people make that way harder than they need to because they're trying to do way too much and they're trying to scale way too much. And they end up scaling complexities and noise and overwork and overwhelm. And we want exactly the opposite. So, kind of my approach to things and my special sauce, if you will, is I really truly believe that you need to simplify in order to scale. So, we start with simplifying and leaning out and getting really clear on what does matter, what do we want to scale. And then once we have that solid foundation, we really amplify it, and I help my clients get to the whatever their particular vision and goals are as quickly and as a most streamlined way possible.
I love that. I wanted to give you a standing ovation. There is a huge tendency to overcomplicate things. So it's like either people are completely avoiding the things that they need to do to grow, or they're overcomplicating things to such an extent that it's just an absolute mess. And I know for me, when I was doing a lot more work with business development, consulting clients, sometimes you have to literally go in and unravel this tangled up mess with all of these different softwares and programs, and you've got this interwoven with that, and you want to get rid of this thing, and it's a huge undertaking just to start to clean everything up. And I've always been of the mindset of trying to keep things as lean and efficient as possible. And I've even found myself sometimes challenged with trying to clean up things from 5-10 years ago. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about this, because you're in the trenches, you're working with your clients, you're seeing some of these probably more common issues, and we've got an audience that's sort of all across the board. Some of them might just simply be a solopreneur. Their automation might involve a scheduling system, and they have a website and they post some stuff on social media. And then we've got everyone all the way up to companies that have large teams and a lot of different operating systems, and knowing that we're sort of accommodating a broad range of business owners here, intuitively, perhaps you can sort of tune into, what are some of the things that you see people bumping up against that just plain doesn't need to be that way. And then maybe we can get into a little bit about how these different businesses can incorporate systems that allow them to grow. Yeah. I know that was a big question, wasn't it?
I got it. And I'm excited because this is an area I'm super passionate about. And for anyone who is familiar with lean, it came up in lean manufacturing. And way back when, there were areas of waste that were identified in lean manufacturing that a lot of companies went in to try to eliminate. Over the years, there were areas of waste identified in software development. And I've gone in and identified the areas of waste that I see most often in today's smaller online businesses. So whether that's coaching businesses, consulting businesses, more expert or agency service-based businesses, there's a lot of common things that I see. And the more seasoned of a business you are, the more of these are going to be applicable. But that being said, there's some applicability to absolutely everybody. And so I will hit on the number one that I see first, and it's exactly what you said, and it's unnecessary complexity. And the reality is your business will keep getting more and more complex as you grow it and as you scale it, unless you're super intentional and you create protected space to go in and actually lean things out. It's just the nature of things, right? Especially when we're in what I call the emerge stage, which is where you're just starting out. What do we do in that stage? We try all the things. And it's the time in your business when you want to try all the things. You're trying to figure out what works, what sticks, so that you can find product market fit. And if you kind of carry that mindset and you carry that approach with you when you get into the grow stage, you're just growing all this complexity and you're keep trying to try this and try that, but you're typically not letting things go. You're adding, but you're never taking away. And it can end up pretty unsustainable. It can end up pretty overwhelming. And so when I work with my clients, the very first thing that we do is we look at where is there unnecessary complexity in your business. And I'll give an example from my own business. I recently, well, probably about like 2, 3 years ago, cut over to using Kajabi. And the email provider that I had didn't integrate. So no big deal. I did what most of us do. We created zaps to make everything talk to one another. But over time, we ended up with so many zaps that I actually was going to have to upgrade my Zapier account because we were well over 100 zaps. And I just stopped and said, wait a minute, that's 100 different ways that something could break. Something could go wrong and something could end up not working. It's going to be a project to cut over our email provider, but if I could pick one that integrates, it's going to simplify everything. It's 100 areas of risk that we can reduce and that we don't need to manage and constantly go out and do these extra steps with. So we took on the project to cut over the email provider. It was an intense couple weeks, but now we saved so much time in our schedule by doing that. And again, it's, just natural. When we picked our email provider, it was the right provider for the tool we were working with. But then you make changes because your business changes and grows and evolves. And sometimes the things that were working before actually add a lot of unnecessary complexity. So that's probably the number one that I see in all businesses at all levels. But the more seasoned you are, the more complexity you have if you're not really intentional with subtracting as much as you're adding.
So good. There probably are people listening who know on some level that some things need to go. They need to maybe completely transition, whether it is like the example you used, maybe you've got a different email service provider. Maybe you have recently integrated some new software that has a lot of features and functionality that would be really great for your team, but you're sort of holding on to the old because it's intimidating sometimes to take the time to clean up the old and transition over to the new. I'm hoping that this is a little bit of a wake-up call. Do it now. Get it done. Like you said, sometimes it is a labor intensive, couple of days or couple of weeks or even couple of months, depending on the size of your business and the size of the project. But it always is worth it in the long run. And the longer you drag that out, it becomes this depleting force in your business rather than just an inconvenience. It starts to drain energy and resources and become frustrating for everybody because intuitively you can feel it's time. Just like sometimes it's time to put your foot on the accelerator and do some of the things that you need to do to grow and scale. So now let's transition to that. So when it's time to add to your business, what does that typically look like?
Yeah, absolutely. You obviously can't always be in a period of subtraction. You need to also be in a period of addition. And as the CEOs of our business, as the leaders and the natural visionaries of our business, our favorite thing on earth to do is add. We love to create, we love to ideate and come up with new ideas. And that's actually one of the other areas of waste, is unnecessarily focusing on new and different things instead of optimizing the things that you already have. But there's periods where new and different is exactly what you need. It's how you remain a market leader. It's how you keep things interesting and attract new people to your business while keeping and retaining your existing clients. So there's absolutely a place for that. And I shared the different stages of business that emerge was the first one. I see there being 4 stages. So I think there's emerge, grow, scale, and then influence. And so emerge is all about that product market fit. At that point, you really are just trying a lot of different things to find the right offer for the right person at the right price that you know that you can get repeat sales from and repeat results for your clients. And once you get there, then you move into grow. And at that point, you're trying to grow it. And one of the mistakes that I see in that stage is people, because they're natural ideators, will end up changing it too often and will end up adding all of these new things in, and they never really give that thing that they proved out in the emerge stage the opportunity to fully grow. But you also usually are growing through addition a little bit when you're in the growth stage. And that's why it's grow, not scale. So when you're growing and you're in a growth stage, your revenue is going up, your clients are going up, but typically the resources required to support that are going up as well. Your expenses are going up, your time's going up, because you tend to be in a stage where you're doing more. And that's fine. You're trying to make sure you can get more clients. You're trying to make sure something gets that traction that you want. Once you do, that's where you want to go into scale. Scale is where you're bringing in more revenue, you're helping more clients, you're making a bigger impact, but your resources are not going up at the same rate. So your profit margins go up. Your time actually can go down if you're really intentional and strategic about it. And again, as we mentioned, you only want to scale those things that are really working. You don't want to scale through addition by just adding this and that and that and trying to scale it all. But once you do get something working and you're scaling it, there's a lot of different ways that you can scale. And that's where you can get creative with the new and different. Maybe you go out and expand into a different target market. Maybe you look at your customer journey and you get really intentional about what your offer suite is. And you say, I've got this right here, but when I really think about what would be next for my client, if I add this offer or if I add a variation of this offer, I think I can retain my clients more and generate more revenue from the clients I already have. And so there's a lot that you can do, but when you get into that scale stage, you want to have simplified first. Then once you scale and you have proven that you can scale, that's where I think there's so much opportunity to get really creative and really innovative in what you're doing to be able to expand your reach and your profits without expanding your resources. That's the key.
This is a fun conversation. So I get a little giddy over this stuff. Now, obviously, my real passion is the mindset side of stuff. I love getting in people's heads. I love helping them get out of their own way. It's almost like what you said on a practical, pragmatic level of growing your business externally, but doing the inner processes to allow for those external manifestations, if you will. But I love talking about this because it's not just the inner journey in business. It is very much about getting your hands in the clay and creating something physical, something that is visceral, something that you can experience with your senses. You can see it, you can feel it, you can taste it, you can touch it, you can experience the realness of what you're creating, and you can experience the gratification of all of the results that you're getting, the people that you're able to help, the transformation that you're able to see unfold in your business and in your life. So, so fun. But now I have to shift gears because we have to incorporate in a little bit of the mindset stuff into this conversation. So I'm going to put you on the hot seat as the business owner. And I would love to ask you the question, my favorite question to ask guests, which is, if you will share one mindset obstacle that you've personally had to overcome in order to get to where you are today in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with everything that you said. One of the pillars of the lean out method is commitment. And I think that commitment is not just saying, I'm going to keep going, but it's, I'm going to push through when all those mindset blocks come up, because we tend to get in our own way more than anything else. And mindset is like the gift that keeps on giving. As soon as you work through one series of mindset, challenges, then all of a sudden there's a new level waiting for you. There's never really a point in time we don't have mindset challenges. But as that leader of our business, whether we're a team of one or whether we're leading a huge team, we really always need to be, I think, working on ourselves and doing the inner work. And I think the first time a mindset thing came up for me was actually the catalyst for creating the lean out method. And if we rewind back to the early 2000s, I had launched a jewelry business. And this was one of my passions. I didn't actually set out to do what I do for consulting in the lean space. I set out to be more of a creative. And I happened to be working in parallel, consulting with these big Fortune 50 clients, doing lean and project management and efficiencies and things of that nature. And my business ended up in a place where I was just struggling so much. I was faced with the decision of, can I keep this going? Do I need to close the business, or do I need to make changes in the business that would really not be in alignment with my personal integrity and what I really saw for that business? And I took this big step back at that point, because it was at that inflection point, and realized all the consulting I'm doing for these big, huge Fortune 50 clients, they are getting incredible results. They're scaling, they're increasing their profit, they're expanding their reach. They're doing all the things I want to do in my business, but my business is the polar opposite of that. I'm struggling, I'm hustling 24/7. I'm in massive debt. I'm so stressed out, I could barely sleep and eat, right? And so it was night and day different. And to me, it was a mindset block around me doing this smaller business and the work I was doing for the bigger business. I couldn't see the connection. I saw them as two different things. And I saw one as a creative business. I'm in my creative Crista, hat when I'm over here in my jewelry business. I'm in my corporate consulting Crista hat over here when I'm working with these big companies. And it wasn't until I really realized all of these same concepts apply to my business. I have to adapt them to fit my size of business, but they're all applicable. And that was what led me to create the lean out method. But that was also, from a mindset perspective, what made me realize that I didn't have to separate out my creativity from my kind of structured side. That was actually what made me me and what made me different. And I'm very different from most business consultants, especially people who work on planning and lean. I don't keep things dry and boring. I keep them really fun and really visual. And it ends up being a different approach because I pull that creativity in. But up till that point, I had always separated it because I almost saw it as two different personas. And in doing so, I was actually really hurting the success of my first business.
Such a valuable story. That is a huge mindset shift that then allowed you to get on the trajectory that now has helped so many other business owners as well at all of these different levels and stages of business. So I absolutely love that. All right, now you've got to share with our listeners how they can connect with you, because someone out there listening is going to say, I need to learn more.
Absolutely. So I mentioned that there were those 10 areas of waste that I identified for most coaching, consulting, and online type businesses. So I have a free guide. If you want to grab that, it's leanoutmethod.com/waste. And you can go through it and see which of them apply to you. It actually has you rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how much of that waste you have in your business. Plus, it gives you some actionable things that you can do to try to get some of that time and money and energy back into your business. So that is one place. And of course, you can find all things Lean Out at leanoutmethod.com.
Excellent. So you heard it. Go through it. You've probably got some stuff you've got to clean up in your business. I want to thank you so much, Crista, for being with us today. This really has been a great conversation.
Thanks so much for having me on.
And thank you to all of our listeners. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.